I want to know from you, Joshua Aveste,
Yeah.
best ever England song.
It's got to be the 96 song, hasn't it?
Can you sing it for us?
I need you to duet it if you can.
What is the 96 song? 3 lines?
It's the, yeah.
It's coming.
In home.
Yeah.
I did a school play performance of that song.
Plans for final day, stay in bed. Lay away. I don't know
People
the
love
words,
you singing as
but
well.
England's gonna throw it away, gonna blow it away, but I know we can play. And Psycho screaming! Too much.
You're beautiful.
Too much.
Mate, do you know what? I actually think you could have had a career in singing. I don't know why you didn't. I don't know why you didn't do it.
Yeah.
You could have gone on, the sort of Pop Idol. I could have seen
You were about to say
completely
Love Island there.
I was going to say Love Island and Pop Idol.
I could have gone on both.
Yeah,
I
you could
reckon.
have.
Yeah.
Simon Cowell would have fucking loved you.
Oh, God, yeah, that's the concern. That's why I stayed away.
And you would have done anything to be a pop star. You would have done anything.
And you listening, Simon and Louis? Anything.
Yeah, mainly Louis.
What is the best England song, though?
Is
it
that
3
one?
lines?
Yes.
Is it 3 lines? Because I'll tell you what else was good. And Heskey makes it 5, we're on the ball.
Oh, God, yeah, that was good. Heskey scoring the fifth goal in that game is
second
mental.
best people to ever come out of Newcastle, Wellington Deck.
Oh, there you go, there you go.
First?
True Geordie.
No, mate, Cheryl Cole. No, mate, Gaz from Geordie Shore.
No. Come on,
joking.
that's a
It's
massive
Brian.
disservice. It is Brian.
England going into this tournament as bookies' favourites.
Yeah.
Firstly, we will have a quick chat about whether they deserve to be bookmakers' favourites or not. And by the way, if you are just tuning in now, this is going to be our full England rundown ahead of Euro 2024. We are going to speak about our group. We're going to speak about the selection, the team selection of Gareth Southgate. We're going to speak about the players that missed out. And ultimately, we're going to give our predictions on how England fare in Germany this summer. Let's speak about the bookmakers, because the bookmakers at the moment have got England as the favourites for this tournament. Now, if we just cast our minds back, when was the last time a favourite actually won a tournament going in?
I've heard you've done your research on this.
Extensive research is what I've done.
I don't know the answer to this, so tell me, what is it?
Well, let's cast our mind back. Argentina won the last major international tournament. They weren't favourites going into that. They definitely weren't favourites after they lost to Saudi Arabia in the opening game. Yeah, our friends over in Saudi.
Yeah.
Big up the boys. Tournament before that was won by Italy. Italy definitely weren't favourites, although they were on a good winning streak before that tournament.
We
They definitely weren't.
though, shouldn't we?
We should have won that. We should have won that. They definitely weren't the favourites.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, France were not favourites for the 2018 World Cup.
Who was it?
Brazil were 9-2. France, most bookmakers had them around 13-2.
They were fourth place, weren't they? Something like that.
Who, Brazil?
No, France in the bookies odds.
They must have been around that. They must have been around that. Yeah. Going back before then, Portugal, they would never have been favourites for 2016. But before we get into all that, Mr. Aveste, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
What's your favourite movie?
Right now, I would say The Matrix. Have you ever seen it?
Do you know what? I've never seen it.
What?
Is it good?
It's absolutely brilliant. One of the best films of all time. Keanu Reeves, he is brilliant in it.
Fair play. Right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Go on.
When I get home, I'm going to watch it.
I don't think you can.
I can. I've got a Netflix account.
It's not on UK Netflix.
How do you watch it then?
Well, that's the secret, isn't it, Jerry?
What is the secret?
I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Should I tell them?
Yeah, go on.
Private internet access. But what is private internet access? Private internet access is a VPN. What is a VPN? That is a virtual private network. But now you might be asking me, why do you need a VPN? A VPN is an app that hides your IP address and allows you to access the internet as if you were accessing it from a different location. And the VPN that we use is always private internet access. They are the world's most transparent VPN provider with over 30 million downloads, and they never record or store your data. Private internet access is available on all platforms and all devices. I have obviously said about the fact that we watch it for Netflix when we're wanting to watch shows that aren't available in the region that we're currently in the world at that time. But also, if, like me, you are living inside the UK, then you probably know that the 3 o'clock kickoffs for the Premier League football have got a ban. There is a blackout, meaning you are not allowed to watch it if you are living inside the UK. But with a VPN, all of that can change. You can take yourself to somewhere else in the world. Let's say Barbados, for example. You can sit on that virtual beach and watch the 3 o'clock kickoffs. But one of my personal favourite features of using this app is the ability it gives me to browse the internet safely, knowing that my details and data are not going to be stored. So if you want to join me in surfing the internet safely, here's what you need to do. You hit the link in the description. That will take you to my offer. My offer will give you 83% discount on private internet access. That means it's basically costing you around $2 per month. And not only that, you get 4 months for free when you sign up using my link. It is completely risk-free because there is a 30-day money-back guarantee if you do not like the service. So support the guys who support the channel and in turn support me by signing up to private internet access. You've got to go back quite some time to find an actual favourite winning a tournament.
Spain, innit?
It's going to be Spain, isn't it?
Yeah.
It'll be the Spain side that won 3 on the bounce. Although, who won? Was it? Did Germany win the 2014 World Cup? I believe they did.
It was 2012 World Cup.
Was that 2012?
Was that South Africa?
2012 was the Euros, mate. Because Portugal won Euros 2016. So 2014 World Cup,
there you go.
I believe, was Germany, and I believe
it was 2010 with South Africa.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it would have been Spain the last time an actual favourite won the tournament.
Yeah.
Which could be going against us. However, what I would argue is that we are not the favourites. Can you explain why England are favourites for this tournament?
I mean, because people are basically backing them. Basically, England loves a bet, and all of the English people are betting on England to win the tournament. Because there's no other way of explaining that. Like, we should probably be fifth, I would say, fifth favourites for this tournament.
Who would you put as favourites above England?
I mean, France are definitely the best team. So they should definitely be the favourites. I would say.
Are they the best team when you go 11 players on the pitch?
Yes, 100%, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Kylian Mbappe, one of the best players in the world. You know, they've got Tchouaméni and Camavinga in the middle of midfield. I mean...
They've got someone better than that
They've got Saliba in the back.
They got someone better than that in their midfield.
Who is it?
They've took N'Golo Kante, haven't they?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying he's not going to start, which I find quite surprising.
Off the back of a season out in Saudi Arabia... And the season before that, you know, having quite bad injury problems. I don't know if you've checked his injury record out in Saudi.
He's been pretty good, yeah. No, he's played quite a lot of the matches. Okay. Yeah.
Is he a starter for France, or do you think the young guard are taking the baton off him now?
The fact that he's back in the squad is brilliant. Can we just say that?
Yep.
I think when you look at the performances that Camavinga and Tchouaméni have had for Real Madrid, I think it's very difficult to say they shouldn't start. But N'Golo Kante is very well liked. I mean, Didier Deschamps knows him really well. He's very well liked in the squad. So, I mean... the starting lineups that I've seen, I've done a lot of research and trying to find out the starting lineups of all the teams, to be honest with you. A lot of the lineups I've seen don't include Kante, and I am surprised by that. I mean, let's be honest, mate, when it comes to a crunch game, Kante is going to be the one that you want to rely on, isn't it? But both those players are very good. And let's be honest, that's a disservice to Rabiot and some other players they've got in the midfield as well. I mean, France, mate, to say they haven't got the best squad is insane. They've got the best squad by a mile. They've got players that aren't even going. Christopher Nkunku not even going to this tournament.
We are going to obviously speak about all of the teams in a lot more detail. This video is going to be very England specific.
Yes.
However, I asked you the question, and I want to know the rest of your answers. I'd agree with you. France should be shorter odds than England to win the tournament.
I think Germany home tournament. I think Germany should be higher than us. I think if actually though you look at it right, they've got a lineup including Neuer, Kimmich, Rudiger, Jonathan Tah, Kroos, Musiala. Gundogan, Wirtz, Havertz. That is just as good as our team, and they're at home.
Is it just as good?
Yes, definitely. Just as good as our team.
Okay,
mate.
So where did the goals come from?
I mean, they come from your favourite player.
Who?
I mean, they come from the goal scorer. He's really good in the air. He can hold the ball. I mean, you can't have one video, right? You can't say one video where he's really good at laying off and scoring headers and that sort of thing, and then another video saying that you don't rate him scoring goals. So what is it? Like, Joey, just come. What is your position on Havertz? Is he a good player or is he not? Because I'm hearing mixed messages here.
For Arsenal,
he's
a good player.
That is a load of shit.
He's a good player.
That is a
he's
joke.
Decent in the air.
That's a joke.
And he's got good heading ability.
Musiala,
For Germany,
have you seen Musiala dribble the football? Cobham graduate.
I've seen him dribble.
Mate, Musiala, so good. We should be breaking the bank, by the way, to get him. Wirtz on the other wing. He's going to Real Madrid.
Is he better than Palmer?
No.
No, okay.
But he's close.
Okay. Havertz better than Kane?
No, but I mean,
Okay.
come on.
Is this version of Manuel Neuer better than Jordan Pickford?
Yes, 100%. He's better. Jordan Pickford is massively overrated. Jordan Pickford isn't actually that good a goalkeeper. In fact, spoiler alert, I very nearly put Ramsdale in my team over Pickford.
Right. You stated your case. You've done an excellent job, but you have failed. Germany.
No, all right.
Germany
let's keep on going.
shouldn't be shorter odds than England.
Let's keep on going then.
Go on in.
Portugal.
Yeah,
Unbelievable team.
I'll give you that.
I mean, they got Cristiano Ronaldo, Leao, Bernardo Silva, Paulinho, who's about to go to Bayern Munich, Bruno Fernandes, Vitinha on the other side, Diaz, Cancelo.
Point proven.
Okay, thank you. Right, Portugal. Spain as well. I'm looking at Spain's team. You know, Pedri, Rodri, Olmo, Yamal, Nico Williams, Unai Simon. They've got some very good players. Spain do. Sorry, Gahey.
Ivan Toney.
Dunk. Mate, our defence. We got to talk about the defence.
No, so far, let me know, people in the chat. Agree with me or agree with Josh?
Right.
So far, you've named two better teams. You've named France, who are probably a better team. Portugal, who are probably a better team.
I think Italy and Holland as well. Netherlands.
Fuck off.
I think the Netherlands are underrated.
Yeah, underrated. They're underrated. They're not as good as us.
Netherlands.
Who puts the ball in the back of the net for Holland?
Mate, Memphis Depay.
George,
Wow,
no,
unbelievable player.
No,
unbelievable player.
And who was the other one you said?
Italy.
Italy is shit.
Scamacca. Unbelievable player.
Come on,
Barella. Mate, Chiesa.
I get, that we go over the top.
Unbelievable.
With Maresca.
Mate, no joke.
No, I get that we go over the top with England, but you are naming some duds.
Mate, no joke.
You've just argued Scamacca.
I'm going to laugh in your face when we go out in the quarterfinals, and I won't do this with any joy.
I wouldn't, because I'll be about 12 pints deep by that point.
When we go out in the corners to either Italy or Spain, I'll be laughing now.
Ye have little faith, my boy. Okay.
Right, let's get into it. I want to see why you're so confident. Like looking at that squad, right? Can we talk about the squad next?
Let's talk about the squad.
Yes. Let's talk about the squad. What do you think of it?
I think it's decent.
Is it one of the weakest squads we've ever taken to a tournament?
I feel like we fought this about the 2018 World Cup, and then look at where that got us. So, I don't look. Are there key areas of the squad that we are obviously going to be maybe a little bit lackluster, maybe a little bit thin? Yes, I do think there are. I think in an ideal world, you wouldn't be going into a tournament without a centre-back pairing that had really at least experienced multiple qualifiers together, international friendlies together. These boys haven't been to a tournament together, I don't think. Did Gahey come?
No, I don't think Gahey has been involved at a tournament.
He did. And then when I look at the selection also, there's players like... I was quite surprised that Braithwaite went home.
Very surprised.
I thought that he would be one that would be in there. I completely understand that he only just started getting back on the pitch towards the back end of last season, but I think the admission of Levi Colwill is one that I'm not saying, it's going to be the reason why we don't win it or whatever, but I think Levi Colwill would have been a good player for us, left centre-back, natural left centre-back position. As much as I despise the move to left-back that we had seen at times, he has shown this season that he does have the versatility to play across that back line, as much as I think he's best paired in the left centre-back pairing. Obviously, has won at, under 21 level with England?
Under 20s level, I think. Was that
either
the tournament?
Way, But it makes no difference, does it? He's won at youth level with England and been through the setup in that way. Then I think you obviously look at the fact we've gambled on bringing Luke Shaw in. To be honest, they're saying that Luke Shaw will be ready by the second group game, maybe the third. I don't think he will be. I don't think he'll get on the pitch. I also think that we'll be doing well enough at that time that Kieran Trippier, who I anticipate being over there, will just stay over there. I don't think that Gareth Southgate is a man that massively wants to gamble midway through a tournament. That being said, if you cast your mind back to Euro 2020, I think Tyrone Mings started the first two games and then Harry Maguire came back in. Ultimately, that was a gamble that paid off because Harry Maguire, I think, then got himself into team of the tournament come the end of that, got a couple of goals, so that was a decent one. I also think that one of the areas has been the third midfielder. So if you include Jude Bellingham at the top of the midfield and Declan Rice at the base of the midfield, I think that whoever plays in that other position in midfield has been an area that's come up for debate. Actually, we're going to speak about that because I don't think that is an area that we need to debate on or need to worry about too much, to be honest. And then we're looking at it and we're going, okay, yeah, there's been key departures up top and maybe some guys that haven't been brought along. But on the whole, bearing with what we had, I think the squad's all right. I think we've got one key miss here, and people will probably be shouting at the screen right now saying, why would you even call this guy a key miss? One, he don't want to play for us, and two, we've never really seen him consistently play for England. However, I think that Harry Maguire is a big miss, and it's mad that we say this because obviously he had come under a lot of stick for God knows how long. He was a meme for a couple of years, and now this season I think we're looking at it and we're going, okay, Harry Maguire, you're going to be a miss. You and John Stones have a really good partnership in there, and I think that because Harry Maguire is going to be a miss, as much as I've there shouted out Levi Colwill, we've spoke about Mark Gahey. He had a really good end to the season, and for the most part a good season on the whole. But actually, for me, a big miss here is Ben White. Because I think that Ben White could be a key player for us here, but ultimately it's a bit of a nothing point, isn't it? Because he doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to play. I think you've missed out probably the most obvious one in terms of the big misses is Reece James.
Yeah,
I think as a Chelsea fan, it's a bit of a disgrace actually that you've not mentioned him. To be honest with you.
Well, actually, I would go the other way. And I'd say it's very tactical why I haven't mentioned it. Because I would say that Reece James isn't the player that I wanted to see at this summer's Euros for very, very selfish reasons.
Yeah, fair enough. I think with Reece, what I like about him is he could have easily filled in that DM position that you're worried about. I feel that he would be a very good attacking wing back as well. I just think he's basically one of our better players, to be honest with you, for England as well. So I feel Maguire for me is number one. I think Reece is number two. Then you could probably put Ben White as number three. But again, Ben White doesn't want to be there. So how much are you going to really miss him? I think Branthwaite is a weird one.
What about the boys that were like just out of choice not taken, i.e., James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, Jack Grealish? Any of those boys?
I think for me, the one that you think is the most unfair is probably Maddison because the way he started the season. But the season did tail off for Maddison, didn't it? He wasn't really performing at the tail end of the season. And I do think him and Grealish, there is a attitude that I'm slightly concerned about how much would they want to be there, how happy would they be to sit on the bench. Do you remember when we took Connor Cody to the tournament? He knew he was going to be on the bench, but we knew he was a sound lad and wouldn't kick up a fuss and actually was more of a coaching mentor kind of role. I don't see Maddison or Grealish doing that. So I understand really why Southgate hasn't taken them. Yes, they're mercurial and they're very good. But I do think that someone like Eze at the moment is on just as much form as a Maddison, for example. And I think Jared Bowen, who I've actually slated in the past as well, I think he's just as good as Grealish at the moment, if not better. So I actually think when you think we've slagged off, and I've been more than anyone slagging off Southgate, we've slagged him off quite a lot in the past about saying that he doesn't take players on form. I think what he's done with this selection, like 90% really is selected players on form, and I rate that. I respect it. They all do coalesce quite well together as well. I think the only real issue that I'm seeing really is our defence and the left back area that I'm particularly concerned on.
Are we seeing a different side to Gareth Southgate? Because in his squad selection this time, he has been a lot more ruthless. Marcus Rashford obviously has not been on good form at all this season. But when you look at what spiked his good form for Man United, it was actually the Winter World Cup, really. Yeah. He hadn't been on great form. Yeah. Gareth Southgate takes him away. He scores, I think it was a free kick he scored against Wales, and he looked really good, and that spiked his form. Also, guys that Gareth Southgate has come under sort of heavy criticism for in the past for putting his neck on the line way too often for them, like a Jordan Henderson, for example, has not been included. Calvin Phillips has not been included. We've seen that players who have dropped out under Southgate in the past have rarely come back. The sort of initial era of Southgate as England manager saw a lot of starts for Dele Alli, a lot of starts for Jesse Lingard. Guys like that are a thought of the past now. Raheem Sterling, he was dropped from the setup initially when he was on really, really hot form earlier on in the season. There was 2 squad announcements where I very much expected Raheem Sterling to be brought back. He never was. Now you're seeing the likes of James Maddison and Jack Grealish drop out. Are we seeing an evolution of not only the team, but also Southgate's ruthlessness, you could say, as manager.
Do you know what the thing is I think when he was making those squad selections earlier, I should say, he was doing that with the fact that he knew he was going to carry on in the job. I feel there's a big moment now where we do really anticipate Southgate this to be his last tournament. And I feel what he's doing really is just picking players on form and taking a few gambles, because he doesn't need to be the safe option anymore. He doesn't need to placate any players because he doesn't need to keep them on side in other tournaments. He knows that he's potentially out the door, and there isn't that sort of... What I think Southgate is very good at, and I'll give him some credit for this, is the man management side of the game. I think what he does is he brings people along on the journey, and even when they aren't performing very well, he backs them and plays them. I think with this one, he goes, I don't need to worry about that now, and so I'm going to start blooding some young players and actually setting the next guy up for a bit of success, because at least these players will have had tournament experience. But like I say, it's not really a gamble, is it? When you know that these players have been performing week in, week out for their clubs, and you are picking on form. We've just been sort of looking for that for so long, and I feel finally he's sort of got the message. But I feel he's doing that because he does need to take a, he's happy to take a risk, I should say.
So what about the form that we've actually seen this England side playing leading into this tournament?
It's bad.
Because let's be honest, it's not been good.
I looked at it, mate. Should we look at the last? I've got the last 8 games for you. Lost to Iceland, win against Bosnia 3-0. Draw against Belgium 2-2, loss against Brazil, draw against North Macedonia 1-1, then a win against Italy, and then a win against Australia, I should say. Back in the day, we would have come into these tournaments, we would have absolutely destroyed a group. We're not looking that good at the moment. So how much do you really read into that form, mate? Are you concerned about that going into this tournament? Especially the Iceland game. That one for me, you don't really want to be going into like the eve of a tournament coming off such a poor performance as that. And it wasn't like we rested. That was pretty much a starting 11.
Yeah, you
really
don't. And obviously you look at like even the last Euros, for example, right? I said about Italy not being the favourites. They went into that Euros off the back of a 27-game unbeaten run under Roberto Mancini. But then, and this fact might be countered as I explain it ever so slightly, but I really rated us in the World Cup. And I get that you could say, well, mate, we went out in the quarterfinals, but I really did rate our performances in that World Cup. I thought we looked good in every single one of the group games. I thought when the tougher test came in Senegal, who, by the way, let's not put Senegal down. Like Senegal are a very decent team. And I thought that when that test came, we passed it with flying colours, 3-0 win. And then we got to France. And actually, there's always ways. Ultimately, if you want to be pessimistic, you can break a game down and go, not good enough, tournament football, we didn't win the game, we went out. But ultimately, I do think that you can look at it and say we probably had the better chances in that game. I thought there was large periods where we controlled that game. You know, if Harry Kane doesn't sky that penalty, then maybe we do get a different outcome. So I was, on the whole, despite it being a premature exit, I was actually very happy with our performances in that World Cup. I thought we played some quite exciting football, and I thought for the most part we did well. When we look at the games that preceded... Is that a word? Preceded?
Yeah.
That preceded the World Cup, that we went away in the Winter World Cup. I think we had 1 win in 6. There was a 4 or 5-0 loss in there to Hungary, wasn't there? I think it was a 4-0 loss in there to Hungary. So we didn't go into that tournament off the back of good form, you know? I can also look at tournaments when we've been absolutely shocking, by the way. Do you remember the 2010 World Cup?
Yeah.
The 2010 World Cup, we were shocking going into that tournament.
Yeah.
Shocking. We were shocking in that tournament, I should say. Our form was very good going into that tournament. So ultimately, I use a boxing analogy here, right? Sparring's there to, build confidence, to get a bit of fitness or whatever, to work on a game plan. But ultimately, sparring, and what happens on the night happens on the night. And a lot of my best fights have been off the back of training camps that were riddled with injury and my sparring wasn't going right. And then on the night, it came well. It matters what you do under the lights, okay? Is it ideal to be losing to the likes of Iceland? It's not, is it?
No,
you never want to lose to the likes of Iceland.
No.
But is it something that I think will hold a massive weight when it comes to how we perform going forward? I can't say I do think it's that significant.
Seriously?
No.
I think when you look in the group, though, and we'll get into the group in a second, but, Denmark are a lot better than Iceland. And to say that we put out our best 11 in that game, regardless of if it's a friendly or not, I just think you want to be going into the tournament with a bit of momentum. And momentum does matter. I know what you're saying. We've gone into tournaments before where we've been, circumspect before the tournament. But I do think we need to be going into these things with a bit of form and a bit of positivity around the squad. And I do look at the defence, and I'm really concerned. I have to say, mate, just generally about Southgate, I think I don't know what your position is, but my position is Southgate out, and I've been Southgate out for quite a long time. I do think in the big games, he's let us down tactically. I think it's not all based on the players all the time with his performances. Like, I feel you can look at a lot of games now. The fact that we got relegated from the Nations League as well. You know, we're not even in the top tier now of that tournament. It's a bit of a damning indictment to where we are. Yes, he's the most successful manager that we've had since 1966, you know, since Sir Alf. Do you know what I mean? But I do think you can also say he's had one of the better squads. Like, would you say that his team that he inherited was worse than that sort of like golden era team that we had with, you know, the Rios, the JTs, you know, the Rooneys, the Lampards, the Gerrards? Would you say which team would you say is better?
The golden era of, say, if you say peak of the golden era is 2004, then yes, that's miles better than the team that Gareth Southgate inherited. That was what you initially said, inherited.
But now we're in another golden era. To have players at Real Madrid, you know, to have players at the top end of the Premier League, to have someone like Harry Kane who's banging in goals wherever he's gone. He's basically one of the best number 9s in the world. You really can say that. You know, we've got quality all over it. You know, Phil Foden's just won the Premier League Player of the Season.
Completely agree with
you know,
when
Cole
you
Palmer's
move past the defence,
yeah,
this team's just as good as the golden era.
Yeah, 100%.
When you move past the defence, this team is just as good.
This is why you've got to hold it
the golden era team, and I'm not just on about, Maguire's not here for this tournament. Reece James, fit on his day, is one of the best right-backs in the world, and he's not in the squad. I'm not on about that. I'm on about Gareth Southgate's, 8 years or so now in the job, 8 years, whatever it is. We've never had the defensive options that golden era had.
No.
But, completely agree with you, we're in a golden era. He has had a very generous hand dealt to him in terms of the personnel we've got. Also, remember, right, let's say, for example, the 2004 match went out to Portugal. Do you know who our subs that came on off the bench that day were?
Come on.
Mate, someone can disprove me. I'm going off the top of my head, but I remember that game well. Darius Varsell.
Was it Hargreaves in that game?
It may well have been Hargreaves starting that game. But I'm not too sure. But if not, Darius Varsell, Hargreaves, we had Danny Mills on the bench. We didn't have a great bench, Whereas this time round, you know, we're going to give our lineups. Ultimately, and a little spoiler here, you might see a case coming from me for maybe Foden not starting this time round. You know, whatever you do, you look at the bench and you will see a 20-plus goal season striker in Ollie Watkins on the bench this time round, you know. Ivan Toney got 20 goals a season before last, obviously was serving a ban at times this season. You're going to see players potentially like Anthony Gordon and Cole Palmer that can't even get into the starting lineup this time round. You know, Trent Alexander-Arnold, most of us would agree, a generational talent, will probably not be in the starting lineup. So I would definitely agree that we're in a golden era now. Gareth Southgate has had one of the best squads, but also I think you can always put these factors to it and they can diminish a man's achievements. And does Gareth Southgate have any achievements that, you know, if he doesn't win an international tournament in years to come will be spoken of? No, maybe not. But being someone that lived through plenty of desperately underwhelming generations of England teams and you know, almost like, I don't know whether this is going over the top, but like almost like childhood ruining memories.
Yeah, so true.
Like, mate, I remember
the
being
Lampard's goal.
Mate, I remember being a child and crying at England going out of tournaments and stuff like that. And all I can go on is the feeling that this current crop of England stars have given me, Gareth Southgate's management has given me. We've had a lot of good times as England fans. Good times that I didn't really think we'd get.
Can I countenance that point with I have a conspiracy theory that the tactical innovations and all of the success of England has actually been down to Steve Holland. So Steve Holland,
you're going to have to back that up because
well, look. Steve Holland was very often credited for bringing in that 3 at the back formation that we were so successful under. He was credited for dropping Kyle Walker into the centre back role and then playing another right back alongside him. I also think when you look at Steve Holland's CV is far denser than what Southgate's was. I would love to see Steve Holland remain as the assistant manager of England, and I would like to see someone like a Jose or a very high quality manager come in and support him. I do really believe that the intelligence and the engine room of this setup comes from Holland. and not necessarily from the tactical innovations of Southgate. And I'm basing that, if you're asking me what I'm basing that upon, predominantly the CV more than anything. You know, Steve has been there at top tier level for a very long time. He was involved in the Champions League win for Chelsea, wasn't he?
Would have been chance to
I think he was involved there. I mean, he was involved in plenty of title wins for us. I mean, he is a genius guy. Probably one of the best assistant managers that we've ever had at the football club. So I do think he deserves a lot of credit.
So one of your pet peeves with Gareth Southgate is you believe that tactically
It's mainly
he's a
the
little
waistcoats, to be honest.
It's the waistcoat.
Yeah.
It's the waistcoat.
Yeah.
Probably rocking a waistcoat at this one. I can't see him rocking anything too sweaty this summer.
No, it's going to be a warm one in Germany, isn't it? Yeah.
Look,
We should have a bet on that, what he's going to wear.
If we were going to have a bet.
I think just shirt, tie, no waistcoat, suit, trousers. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I wouldn't argue it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't argue it. When we look at Gareth Southgate, obviously one of the main things that he's always had going against him is in knockout games against the real good sides. We've not got a great record, have we?
We've got an awful record. I mean, lost to Belgium in 2018, lost to Croatia in 2018, lost to Belgium in the third, fourth place playoff. Yeah. I mean, we could keep on going, couldn't we? We lost at home at Wembley to Italy, a very poor Italian side, really, in comparison to us.
An Italian side that at one point we really had our foot on their throats and should have really gone for it in that
100%.
match. After Luke Shaw scores that goal, we had a period of dominance, didn't we, where we could have added a few more, and we really should have done.
If we'd won that tournament, I would look at Southgate's career incredibly differently. You know, to have that silverware, something that we haven't done for a very, very long time. You look at him so more favourably. However, there is a little bit of the Arsene Wenger about this. The nearly man, the bottler. Do you know what I mean? The specialist in failure. Like, yes, brilliant. He's got us to this point. He's got us to semi-finals, to finals. Great. But it's not about that anymore, is it? It's about getting the silverware. That's what we all want. You know, we keep saying it's coming home, and it hasn't. So that's what, for me, we've got the quality, we've got the squad, and I do think with a better manager, we could be winning things.
Well, we say a better manager, but actually, in terms of his CV and of experience in this format of football, Gareth Southgate is up there in this tournament with one of the more experienced managers. You know, he's up there with managers that have been to the most tournaments. I think it's probably only off the top of my head, Didier Deschamps would have probably been to more tournaments than Gareth Southgate, obviously, as an international manager. Is there anyone else?
I think Martinez is there.
Martinez has only done two.
He's been a few with Belgium, wasn't he?
2 or 3?
Yeah. But he's been there.
Maybe. But either way, Gareth Southgate has got a lot of experience in this format. He has got a lot of experience with these players. You've got multiple players now that have been to multiple tournaments under Gareth Southgate. In fact, when you look at the starting 11 for England, or what we anticipate to be the starting 11, which, by the way, we are going to get into, and you will see on your screen shortly, when you look at that starting 11, probably maybe 3 of them haven't been to at least 2+ tournaments with Gareth Southgate. So I do think having that familiarity and having been there and done it before to an extent is going to serve us well. It's going to help us here. Now, we speak about Gareth Southgate coming up short in the bigger matches, but ultimately, to get to these bigger matches, you've got to do what? You've got to get through your group. So should we speak about the group?
Yes. How are you feeling about the group? Are you feeling confident? I mean, look, when the draw came out, mate, I feel like this was one of the easier groups we could have. If you look at some of the other groups, I mean, the Spain, Italy, Croatia group is just, I mean, that is absolutely the group of death. There are some other tough ones in there.
I think this is a tough group, by the way.
Why do you think it is tough?
So, listen, we will go into it, obviously, when we speak about the tournament as a whole. In a separate video, we're going to do in our predictions. But I think that Portugal probably got one of the easier groups when we're looking at sort of whose groups you'd imagine them to win most of the games in. But I believe in this group we've got here, we've actually got quite a tough group. I don't believe we've got any games that we shouldn't be a favourite going into. I do believe that against the likes of Denmark, Serbia, Slovenia, we've all but won them games before we even turn up for them, really. And this could come back to bite me in the arse. However, instead of having anyone in that group who's an absolute 9 out of 10, but then obviously having, a couple of 4 out of 10s, I think we've got 3 solid 7 out of 10 teams in this group. And I think at a glance, everyone's going to look at it and say Denmark, okay? Whether you agree with that or not, I think at a glance, everyone's going to look at it and say Denmark are the closest you've got to England here. Denmark are the team that potentially we need to be looking out for. I wouldn't really go along with that.
Why?
So, when we look at Denmark, right, and we're looking at the players that obviously, they've got at their disposal. I think that Denmark are a team, especially when you look back at the last Euros, right? And that was a knockout game that we won, albeit limped over the line ever so slightly. We need the Harry Kane penalty to get us through there, but we got the job done. Now, when you look at that Denmark side, that was a Denmark side that I think had pretty much every man and his dog. If you were taking away your actual allegiance to your own country, we were all rooting for them. There was the story with obviously Christian Eriksen, and we were all rooting for him. However, I saw that as a sort of peak of that Denmark team. And I see this as a sort of downward slide of that same Denmark team. Whereas I think when you look at England in comparison to that past gone Euros, we've now had the introduction of players obviously like Jude Bellingham, who was at that Euros, but he didn't really get on the pitch. Declan Rice has gone from a guy who was sort of helping West Ham compete for top 10 and push also Europa League spots to a guy who, arguably, along with Rodri, was the best midfielder in the Premier League this season. I think you've also got the likes of Anthony Gordon coming in there. You've got Harry Kane, who's still banging goals. So I think that this is a stronger version of the team we saw at Euro 2020. However, with that Denmark team, I don't think it's the strongest version, I think that a lot of their stars are actually aging. When you look at it, Kasper Schmeichel, he's getting older. Yeah. I think they've got a good centre-back pairing because they could possibly start, couldn't they, with Christensen and who's the other centre-back? I did look
Anderson
at it earlier.
Apparently they're going to play a three at the back. They've got Anderson from, is it Palace, isn't it, who he plays
Anderson.
for? And then Kaya as well, who is a very good player.
Yep.
I mean...
Højbjerg, he's another one that's slowing down, though. Like, let's look at it this season. Yeah. I know it's not necessarily his game creating and finishing, but 36,
football, he's good,
36 games, mate, this season for Spurs, and not a goal or assist.
Yeah.
He's a
player. He's a DM, isn't he? He's not known for, goals and assists.
I mean, I could give you DMs that have got better numbers than
true.
that, in those 36 games. Yeah. Also, Rasmus Højlund, that's the main man that everyone's hanging their hopes on if you're a Denmark supporter. But Rasmus Højlund, he's never been to an international tournament before. He's got a good record with 7 goals in 14 games. But what did he show at Man United this season?
Yeah, well, he didn't get a lot of opportunities for Man United, did he? He wasn't getting a lot of passes.
Okay. There you go. So straight away, let's go with that, right? He didn't get a lot of opportunities for Man United this season. He maybe didn't have a player that was able to give him the ball on the plate, like a Christian Eriksen behind. Oh no, he did have that for Man United.
Christian Eriksen wasn't starting.
Okay, but let's go with it. Our sort of criticism, if we could level it, on Højlund is, say, for example, if a game wasn't going his way and he wasn't getting the service, he's not going to go and get it and make it for himself, like Man United strikers in the past have been able to, like a Wayne Rooney was able to, even like players that came in for their first season in the Premier League this season, like Nicholas Jackson at times was able to. Unless you fed it to Højlund in the box or around the box, he weren't doing that much for you. And in tournament football, in tighter games, sometimes when you do need to go and do that bit extra and put a team on your back, I don't fancy Højlund to be able to do that. So look, I'm not saying that Denmark aren't a decent team, but am I scared of Denmark? No. Am I thinking that Denmark are going to be the toughest game for us in this group? I don't know if they will be. For me, I would probably look at Serbia.
What is it about Serbia's lineup that you're worried about then? Who are the big players there that you're worried about? Because I'm looking at it now and I'm going, Vlahojevic, very good player.
Yep.
Mitrovic, if he to be honest with you, I think it'll be either of Vlahojevic or Mitrovic.
By the way, though, if it is Mitrovic, I know that you're going to go say, it's in Saudi Arabia. The standards
he's good.
Maybe not as good.
No, he's been good.
His numbers out in Saudi for Al Hilal this season have been exquisite.
Mitrovic is a very underrated player, I think, generally. I think if he was still in the Premier League, he'd still be bagging goals.
33 goal involvements in 28 games. I'll tell you another one, right? Dusan Tadic. He has obviously had his first season over at Fenerbahce this season.
Was at Ajax, wasn't he?
He was at Ajax before, wasn't he?
Yep.
And now he's gone to Fenerbahce. 24 goal involvements in 33 games. That's pretty good. Vlahojevic, who you say about, right? Obviously, a lot of people have been saying about how underwhelming he's been for Juve this season, but the numbers would still suggest to you that he's done decent this season. 20 goal involvements in 32 games for him. So I think Milinkovic Savic you got in there as well. You got his brother, I think, playing in goal. Yep. I think that Serbia have a pretty decent team, and obviously when you look at their form going in, they were coming in mixed form, really. 4 losses in their last 10 games. But I've already made the point with England that I don't think that it's all that important when you go into a tournament?
For me, the only thing I'm going to say on them is similar to England. I feel they are a little bit top heavy. If you look at that defence and you look at the goalkeeper, I'm not as concerned about that as I would be with like a defence of Denmark. I think Denmark's defence is actually really solid, especially with the 5-at-the-back system and the wing backs. So for me, that's the only caveat I would say. I think
who do you put further on? With chances of succeeding in this tournament, or at least going deeper in the tournament, out of the two teams I spoke about there, because we will get on to Slovenia, and we've got some sort of interest from club level with Slovenia
Very
as well.
so.
One man we'll be keeping a keen eye on, obviously their striker in Benjamin Šeško. But out of Serbia and Denmark, who do you put ahead? Who do you put as more of a threat to England?
Well, in terms of going further in the tournament, I'd probably say Denmark. In terms of the one-off game, you have convinced me slightly on Serbia, especially because of their lineup and their attack. The fact that they could be bringing on Mitrovic in the last sort of vestiges of the game does concern me. But I do think if you look at the overall quality of the squads, Denmark have got players that could come on, and also got a lot of players that play together, haven't they? As well, like they've got half of basically Brentford squad to really play for Denmark, which I like, and I think that builds chemistry and connections. I do think that Denmark will go further in the tournament than Serbia.
Well, this is actually Serbia's first one they've qualified for when they've become a nation of just Serbia, because obviously before they were part of Yugoslavia and whatnot. Yeah. Also, this surprised me. Do you know when the last time England played Serbia was?
When was it?
2003, which I find that really hard to believe.
Was it Ivanovic from Serbia?
Ivanovic was...
I think he might have been.
Maybe.
I think he might have been.
Yeah.
So maybe Ivanovic was playing in that game.
Well, we beat them that day, 2-1.
There you go.
Goals from Steven Gerrard and a good friend of mine, Joe Cole. So,
wait a second. You know Joe Cole, do you?
Yeah, I try to not talk about it on the channel, mate. Yeah.
He scored a bloody good goal in Soccer Aid. Do you see that?
Mate, he's
against
the
who?
man.
Who did he score it against? Who was in goal?
Tony Bellew?
No.
Who?
Petr Cech.
Was it?
He nutsed Petr Cech with the finish. Very good finish.
There you go.
Mate,
I thought Tony Bellew was in goal for him.
The pitch looks so shit.
That's a bit
Stamford Bridge Soccer Aid. Now, I was a bit worried about that. It looked like a sandpit. Do you remember the game? Do you remember the pitch when it was a sandpit?
Charlton. I was
Fucking
there.
hell.
Yeah. I think we won 4-2 that day. Jason Yule scored from.
That was
Anyway,
awful.
back to the group.
Back to it.
The group of death, we'll call it. Slovenia. What do we know?
Probably the least like a group of death you could possibly imagine. Slovenia, the only players that I'm particularly concerned of or I'm interested in are Šeško, obviously linked with us as a potential striker option. The more we're hearing, Joey, is that he might be warming up. Apparently the conversations with the agents are going quite well, so we might be getting him. But this is about international football, so we'll pause that for a second.
Yep.
Jan Oblak in goal, who I've actually said that we should
Another
put
man
a bid
that
in.
we wouldn't mind getting.
Yeah, I would have loved to have put a bid in for him. I actually think he's a bit of an underrated goalkeeper, really, in the grand scheme of things. Very, very good player. But beyond that, mate, I think you look at their defence, very uninspiring. And I think if they can't get a service up to Šeško, I think they're going to struggle.
Have you seen their form coming into the tournament, though?
What is it?
Mate, they're looking pretty good, you know.
They're looking good. I think
One
I still
loss in their last 12 games.
Yes.
That 12-game run, they got a couple of impressive wins over there.
Who was it?
March, they beat Portugal 2-0.
Yeah.
And you think, it's a friendly, it doesn't mean anything. Well, Portugal that day had João Felix playing. They had João Cancelo playing.
Well,
they had Cristiano Ronaldo playing. Doesn't make for bad reading,
no,
does
it doesn't. It doesn't. I do think, though, you look at the squad you just named, the case that you've just made is very convincing. I do think Slovenia will probably finish fourth in this one.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I pretty agree with you,
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if Denmark finished bottom of the group, to be honest. But what I want to do is I want to speak about starting lineups. I am going to give my starting lineup. You're going to give yours, and then we'll probably meet in the middle on what we think Gareth Southgate is actually going to do himself. Should I start off with my starting lineup for this one?
Yes, please do. I've got no joke now. I've got a completely mental starting lineup, but one that will actually make a lot of sense.
Well,
but you go for yours
let's
first.
stick a pin in that one because people will be very interested to hear that one. I don't think there's going to be too many shocks for you in my starting lineup, but we'll pick it apart as we go through.
What formation are you going?
I'm going with a 4-3-3. For my starting lineup.
Okay.
So my 4-3-3 lineup is going to be Jordan Pickford in goal. I think that one pretty much picks itself. I think he's had a decent little season. Then I'm going to go Carl Walker right back, centre back pairing of John Stones and Mark Gahey, and then over at left back we're going to go Kieran Trippier. As we said before, Luke Shaw might come into it at some point, but you know, I don't think he will. I think Trippier will be doing all right by that point. But what that does make me think is that defensively we're a little bit vulnerable. And then here's where my next sort of main decision that I have to make comes into it, because I think that when you look at Declan Rice, for example, for Arsenal this season, I think he's been really, really impressive. But I would say he's looked better with someone there to support him. I think when he's in a single pivot, I don't think he's as good as we know he can be. That doesn't mean he's not good. He's just not as good. And I do think that when we look at England this tournament, ultimately, attacking's brilliant, but defences will win you tournaments, right? If you have got a stern defence that you're finding it hard for teams to penetrate, you are going to have a better chance of going further in a tournament. And for that reason, I believe it needs to be something more like a double pivot in midfield there. And I think that if you were to put Jude Bellingham there, despite us likening him at times to a young Steven Gerrard and being a box-to-box midfielder, I think you'd be wasting his talent there. And I think that his talent alone will be crucial as to us progressing to further and latter stages of this tournament. So then I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, if we're picking it as someone to sit alongside Declan Rice for the most part, who is going to be the best fit there? I don't think that Trent Alexander-Arnold, as brilliant as he is the player to sit there alongside Declan Rice. I don't think that's going to benefit Declan Rice and benefit our defence all that much. So I am going to go with a man who is tried and tested, would suit probably Gareth Southgate down to the ground because he's going to absolutely run his socks off in here. And ultimately, when you look at his defensive actions, he really surpasses a player like Kobe Mainoo with ease, and that is Conor Gallagher.
Take your Chelsea glasses off.
Okay, 2 seconds. Let me take them off. Still Conor Gallagher.
Do you think we're going to be ridiculed a little bit for backing him in the starting 11? Do you
Okay,
think do you think like a Man United fan would put Gallagher in the starting 11?
I don't think a Man United fan would put Gallagher in their starting 11. But I think when we're saying about... Would you agree with me that defensively we're more vulnerable than we've been in tournaments in the past, and
100%.
therefore you need to pair Declan Rice with a player who is defensively more responsible and just defensively better than maybe a Kobe Mainoo?
I think Wharton's the guy then.
Well, ultimately, you can look at ground duels, Conor Gallagher winning more than Adam Wharton.
Okay.
Yeah. You can look at blocks and interceptions. I do not have the stats to compare Adam Wharton to Conor Gallagher, but
it's going to be Conor.
Over Kobe Mainoo,
Yeah.
he leads that.
Yeah.
I just think that Conor Gallagher is going to be the better option for England here.
you
What would your case be for Adam Wharton then?
My case would be for Reece James, but no. My case for Adam Wharton, I suppose, is I think he's more defensively oriented than any other of those midfield options. I feel like he's kind of like the sitter. They call it in Football Manager, they call it the Secundo Volante role.
Oh,
have you heard about this role?
Secundo Volante,
Yeah. This is the role where basically you're sort of going side to side rather than bombing on forward. And I almost want a player that will just completely sit in and allow maybe a Declan Rice to go on and bomb on and join the attack. But it's a big gamble with Wharton. I mean, not ever been to a big tournament, barely been in the Premier League. So I understand why you've gone Gallagher, and maybe that's interesting for my lineup as well.
So I think we're going to have to see where you've gone with your lineup, because that could suggest that you've got Adam Wharton in there. With mine, obviously, Rice and Gallagher paired there. I'm going to have Saka
On the right.
on the right. I'm going to go Kane through the middle, which means I can obviously only have one man over on the left, and that man is...
Cole Palmer. You were thinking about Foden though, weren't you? You've missed out on number 10. Are you putting Bellingham in the 10? You haven't told us about that yet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bellingham.
so Bellingham in the
Bellingham.
10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right wing Saka.
Yeah.
Kane through the middle. And then...
Cole Palmer hasn't played on the left a lot, has he?
How do you know I'm putting Cole Palmer?
Because you just said you are.
No, I didn't.
Who are you putting there then?
I'm going to disappoint a few Chelsea fans here.
Oh, I thought this was guaranteed that you're going to be putting
Remember, per game, we're going to be picking different lineups. This is just our starting lineup to start the Euros. And again, I'm thinking with my Southgate hat on here, right? I'm thinking defensively. I'm thinking recovery pace.
You're putting Gordon in there,
I'm going Anthony Gordon. Which means I'm going...
Is this your team or is this Southgate's team?
This is my team, mate.
Wow.
Why? Do you think I'm very Southgate?
I think this is incredibly Southgate.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll give my reasons for it then. Phil Foden, generational talent, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, Phil Foden is.
One Premier League player of the season.
Yep, 27 goal involvements in 35 league games for Manchester City. He scored 4 goals in 34 matches for England. He scored 1 goal at a major international tournament, and we did win that day by, I think, a 5-goal margin or something like that. Ultimately, I'm looking at our defensive frailties in this tournament because I don't think we're overplaying it by mentioning those defensive frailties. And then I look at a team that are going to be harder to get at, harder to score against. That's why you've seen me put Conor Gallagher in there. And for the defensive responsibility, that's also why you're going to see me put Anthony Gordon in there. It's no secret that we are going to be playing, as brilliant as Kieran Trippier is over at left back, he's not a left back. We're going to be playing a right back at left back, mate. Do you know what I mean? And ultimately, I think he's going to need as much support as we can possibly give him. And Cole Palmer offers us something absolutely unreal that potentially and very probably will be something we're going to need from the start in games going forward. But in this first game, I think I'm going to start Anthony Gordon there. I'm going to start him there to support, to get back, to chase back his man like we know he can. Got that blistering pace about him. He can turn defence into attack as well on the counter-attack. And I'm going to have him there over Cole Palmer, and I'm going to have him there over Phil Foden. You'll hate on me. You'll go absolutely mad about it. But I'm just telling you, as much as you can say, oh, well, when's Anthony Gordon done that? When's Phil Foden been an absolute game changer for England so far?
Basically, what you've done is you've left out 2 of our best players.
Yeah.
Interesting strategy.
There you go. So that's my England team.
Okay.
That is a team not just built on let me get every single absolutely brilliant player we've got in there, and that's why I'm going to start Trent even though Southgate never seems to fancy him, and that's why I'm definitely putting Foden there even though so far he hasn't ever done that much for England. I am going on a team that I think actually makes sense to be able to win a game.
Okay, so I think that's pretty safe. I would say that's the Southgate safe team.
Safe as houses.
Yeah. Especially because you haven't played 2 very attacking players. So it's very interesting that you talk about defensive solidity because I have got a team that is incredibly defensively solid.
Solidity or solidarity?
A bit of all of them. Yeah, both.
Did you say that in
the
comments?
I did. So can I give you mine?
Give me it.
So I've gone for 5 at the back, Joey. So I'm going for a 5-2-3. Yeah. Now, my rationale for this is we probably have one of the weakest defences that we're going to ever have in an England tournament. And I do think we need to be solid and have players around them. So let me get into it. Pickford is obviously going to be the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. I did think about this. I have to be honest with you. I'm more of a fan of Ramsdale, but Ramsdale was shit against Iceland. So I'm not going to play him based on that, just based on form. I'm putting my Southgate hat on and I'm going on form. It literally says form at the front of it. That's what he wears now. So then we'll start with the right wing back. I'm going to go for Trent as the right wing back. Bearing in mind, he is our best right wing back.
Yep.
You could say in the squad other than Reece James because Reece James isn't there.
No, fair play in the squad, yeah.
So Trent is there. What I want Trent to do is bomb up and down the pitch, and I want him to basically use his crossing to be able to whip balls in, get Harry Kane onto some headers. And I think in the right wing back role, that complements his best ability, which is whipping those balls in. I've seen him in a central role. Think he can play central or out wide quite easily. So I want to see Trent in there.
Does Gareth Southgate seem like a man to you that likes change or embraces change?
I don't give a fuck about this. This isn't Gareth Southgate's team. We've made this very clear. This is my team.
Okay.
And actually, I would win tournaments, not Gareth Southgate. Just going to say that now. I'm more qualified than him, obviously.
You don't turn up to take part. I
take it to win.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Then my right centre-back would be Kyle Walker.
Okay.
We've seen him play there for England before. And if we're talking about Southgate has played him in that role.
Okay.
And obviously, you want some recovery pace. If you're having a 3 in the defence, the key thing that you need is recovery pace. And I don't think there's anyone actually better in the world than Kyle Walker in that role. Alongside him, in the middle of the defence, is John Stones. John Stones has the ability to take the ball on, bring the ball forward. And I do think he's the best anchoring for the middle of defence, even if Harry Maguire was there, which he's not.
And if we're dominating, he can step up into midfield with Declan Rice and give him a bit of support.
Exactly. I'm glad you're on the same wavelength as me, mate. Are you coming along to my starting 11?
I'm on the wave.
Yeah. Then I'm going to have Guehi on the left-hand side. I think he's our best left-hand side option. Now, if Branthwaite had gone or Levi Colwill was in the squad, both of them would have been better suited to this role. But based on the squad, Guehi is the one. The left wing back is going to be one that you're going to laugh at me. So prepare for this. You're going to physically laugh.
I don't know where you're going.
It's going to be Saka. So we've seen Saka play this role. Now listen to me, right?
When have we seen him play?
He's played this for England. He's played for England and he's played for Arsenal at left back.
Right. Okay. When?
a long time ago, but he's done it.
How long ago?
No, like 3 years max.
Okay.
3 years
okay.
max. Right.
3
my
years ago,
rational-
I didn't have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. But look at us now.
Yeah.
I think with Saka, right, I want a left-footed player on the left-hand side, especially with wing-backs. I feel that he's going to be the more advanced wing-back. So Trent will sort of be inverting, tucking in. I think Saka will be right up there. And I want Saka to be in the team. And I think this is the only way you fit him into the team in the 5 in the back formation. But I think he's good enough to play there. He is more than capable enough at tackling. And I feel that with the defensive solidity behind him, I think it doesn't matter if he's not an out-and-out defender. Exactly. Then... Is that batshit crazy so far?
Yes.
Yes. Right. Then in front of them, I think what you've got to remember is with both wing backs bombing on, you're going to need some clear holding midfielders.
Yeah.
So the way that I'm looking at it is you've got these 2 holding midfielders and the 3 at the back as the sort of the 5 defensive players, and then you've got everyone else, the wing backs included, as attacking players. That's why I've gone for Saka as well, another reason. So Rice is one of the DMs and Gallagher is the other DM.
Yep.
I did think about Mainu and I thought about Wharton, but I just think, again, Gallagher will be all over the place. He can fill in at left wing back. We saw him do that role for Chelsea and when Cucurella was playing. And so he's the natural one. And Rice is probably the 2nd or 3rd name on the team sheet now, you'd say. This is where now it gets really exciting, mate. So what this means is I'm almost sort of using my Chelsea Tuchel formation, Conte formation hat on here. And I'm saying you now don't need out-and-out wingers anymore. So now you can play more playmakers. So obviously Bellingham is one of the 10s, and then there's going to be another 10 alongside him. That other 10 can be interchangeable. That could be Foden, it could be Palmer, it could be even a Bowen potentially, right? I would personally, for the starting game, go for Palmer. That might be my bias coming in here, but I do think he can play that role incredibly well. I think he will score goals from that role. I think Foden could easily be there, and I'd interchange them. I wouldn't really mind if Foden started, to be honest with you. Then, obviously, you've got Harry Kane up front. I think that team, I think, wins the tournament.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, how are you conceding goals?
My reluctancy would obviously be to try a new formation that hasn't been experimented
We've played that
with.
formation for England before.
We've not experimented with that formation in qualification for
No,
this.
we haven't. But it's worked. It's worked for us in tournament football. In fact, I think.
When was that? When it worked
I
for
mean,
us in tournament football?
literally, like last tournament.
When we went out to France.
Probably, yeah.
It didn't really work for us then.
I mean, France are like generationally good team.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we should not have been favourites. But we would have probably lost 5-0 if we'd played 4 at the back in that game.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Fair enough.
Like, what I think is funny is a lot of people will ridicule this formation, but I actually think we're going to end up seeing this formation in the tournament.
Yeah, I think when the going gets tough, in tougher games, I think we may well see that. I think if ever there's a chance to bring one more defensively minded or defensively positioned player into the fold and have one less attacking player, you will see Southgate do that. You have seen Southgate do that in the past. So I think there's every possibility. In fact, we've done it against France, didn't we? Last time out, we sacrificed someone from the attack and put them into the defence. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. I think we're both in agreement, though, that the more likely lineup that we're going to see in this tournament, especially in the first game, is the one that I named, yeah?
So, very quickly, I'll whiz through it. This is what I think Southgate's going to do. Pickford, Walker, Stones, Guehi, Trippier. I think it'll be Rice, Gallagher, Bellingham in the middle, Saka on the right, Foden on the left, and Harry Kane up top. That is what I expect him to play.
Yep.
4 at the back.
And with that lineup, we're going to move on to knockout matches, and we're going to obviously do a separate video on this. But just in terms of the group as a whole, do you think that this England side, what we now know of them, having had the back catalogue of, 4 tournaments now under this manager, or this will be the 4th, will it, to go on, we've got enough to top this group, haven't we?
7 points. I think we draw against Serbia, is my prediction.
And Serbia's the first match?
I think it's the first game, yeah.
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 What makes you think we're going to draw that one then?
I just think we're undercooked into the tournament. I think he's brought a squad that hasn't really played together. And I think the Iceland result was using our best 11, or pretty near enough to, obviously without Bellingham.
Okay.
Bellingham makes a big difference, but I still think we slip up at the start. What do you think?
I think that it is coming home. I think we're winning the whole fucking thing. And I think that if you want to watch content around this tournament, this, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen and 0.03% of you that are ladies, is the place to watch it on my channel. Euro 2024 is coming home. Southgate's boys are going to fucking have it off. I'll see you in the next one.